And thank you for attending the Twinsburg Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. I'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Mr. Aho, please call the roll.
Mr. Solera?
Here.
Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Here.
Mr. Felber?
Here.
If you could please join me in standing with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening again, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. I see we have some great students from Bissell and RBC to honor tonight, but I would ask that those that can stay to see one of our great high school teachers receive a special recognition tonight that she is so very deserving of. As I have mentioned numerous times, we have a tremendous staff here in this district and some of the best teachers around. And I'm so glad to see Mrs. Maggie Chernick get this recognition and award that she's very deserving of. Tonight, the board will be presented with an update on the local report card and the grades we received from the Ohio Department of Education. As I said last week, while the data embedded in these grades is important for the district to understand and use, these grades only represent a snapshot into the education of our over 4,000 students. These grades do not take into account many of the wonderful educational, curricular, and co-curricular opportunities available to our students, nor do they take into account the many wraparound services that we have available or our dedication to educate the whole child. Speaking of the co-curricular opportunities in our district, I would be remiss not to mention our amazing, undefeated, number 9 ranked in the state varsity girls soccer team and their head coach, John Garber. And since they're looking to extend their undefeated record of 13-0 this evening across the street, I'll end my report and hand the meeting over to the superintendent and encourage those here this evening to cheer our Lady Tigers on in the second half once our student and teacher recognition are over.
It is a really big night across the street, and so we apologize for a meeting, but maybe our families could scoot across the street and go cheer on our Lady Tigers. They're 12-0, and that is an amazing thing, and if they win against Hudson this evening, they will be Suburban League champs. So super excited for our girls soccer team under the direction of Coach John Garber. So congratulations to them. It's been a great season, and we look forward to hearing what happens tonight. Maybe we'll hear some cheers across the street. Never can tell. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, our friends from Bissell and our friends from the middle school. It is hard to believe that we are fast now into the month of October. The school year just seems to fly by, and we are so busy here in our school district just doing some great things with the boys and girls who attend our school district as Tigers. Board of Education, you know, a week or so ago, because our students have such a great big heart, the district actually sponsored the Funky Footwear for Florence Hurricane Relief, say that 5 times fast, and I didn't have the amount that the kids earned or donated at our last meeting, but I'm pleased to tell you that we have approximately $2,800 that was donated by the children for wearing funky footwear, and that'll all go to the American Red Cross for their hurricane relief efforts for the hurricane that was on the East Coast a couple weeks back. So boys and girls, if you wore some funky footwear to school that day, thank you very much for your participation and just your big heart for giving back to some people that are really in a bad spot right now with all that rain and wind and the storm that went by. So thank you so very much. Board of Education, I'd like to just publicly thank the members of our community who participated on Monday evening in the first action team meeting. For the residents and parents who don't know what I'm talking about, the district at this point in time is working through a process for the development of our strategic plan. And Monday night was the kickoff event for the work of the action teams. And so we have an action team for academics, financial, facilities, culture and climate, communications, and safety. And the work of those groups will now be to do some research to determine what their thoughts are about our school district in those areas moving into the next 5 years. So we're very pleased. We were so excited about the enthusiasm and the number of parents and residents that came out to help us on Monday evening. It was phenomenal. And I talked with the facilitators since then, and everyone is just very encouraged by the participation. So if you're a member of those committees, thank you so very much for dedicating the next couple of months to the district as we work through some really hard work with the ultimate goal here of presenting to the Board of Education the district strategic plan probably in June of 2019. Board, tomorrow is a very important day here in the district because tomorrow we will host our 4th annual Senior Citizen Bus Tour. I'm understanding we have approximately 20 senior citizens that will get on one of our school buses tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and they will be touring our district. They're going to have lunch over at Bissell with some of our students over our Bissell Tigers, and they're going to participate in some classroom activities. They're going to hear a concert by the Twinsburg High School Orchestra, and it's going to be just a fantastic day. So this is the 4th year that we are hosting our Senior Citizen Bus Tour. It really gives our seniors here in town a chance to see the inside scoop of what happens here every single day in the Twinsburg City School District. So we look forward to welcoming our seniors tomorrow, and we thank Laura Seifer. She is the coordinator of senior citizen services here in the community, and every year she helps us to arrange all this for our friends, the senior citizens. So we look forward to a fantastic day tomorrow. Also, it's homecoming week, and so boys and girls, I hope that you're excited about this coming Friday because at 6 o'clock, the parade will kick off up on Tiger Trail. For those of you who don't know where Tiger Trail is, it's the access road that starts right at the corner here by the high school, and it rings up over to the stadium. And at 6 o'clock, we'll have the kickoff. It is a Hawaiian homecoming parade. So just imagine all the crazy things we're going to see for a Hawaiian homecoming parade on Friday. And then stick around for the football game. We look forward to another win. Our boys are doing really good this year, so we look forward to another win and just a great event. And then, of course, Saturday night is the dance for our high school students, and it's always just a really great event. So we have so many things going on, and tonight we're going to celebrate some great things. And before we get to our boys and girls and some building highlights, we have a special guest here tonight. Our school district has been partners with the Cleveland Clinic for some years now, and one of the things that we do as partners with the Cleveland Clinic is that we participate at the high school in something called the Expressions program. And one of our teachers this evening, Mrs. Maggie Chernick, is going to receive a special award because she's been very dedicated and committed to encourage our high school students to participate in the Expressions program. So I'd like to introduce the Executive Director of the Civic Education Department at the Cleveland Clinic, Mr. Brian Flom. And I'd also like to ask Dr. Laura Hebert, our principal, to come forward, and of course our special teacher, Mrs. Maggie Chernick, for a special presentation.
Mike, I don't even think I need it. Get a loud boy. I think I'm all right.
Oh, we're on TV though. So
Oh, I do. All right. Well, as Superintendent Powers said, my name is Brian Flom. I'm Director of Cleveland Clinic Civic Education Department, and I am grateful for this opportunity to publicly thank and recognize a Twinsburg High School teacher for the incredible work she has done within our Expressions program. Now, since 2005, Cleveland Clinic Expressions has engaged more than 11,000 middle and high school students from across Ohio and around the world in the creative exploration of science and medicine. So through project-based peer-to-peer learning, students interpret research studies conducted by our Cleveland Clinic high school interns, producing a powerful array of artistic, literary, and even mathematical projects. Now, since 2013, Maggie Chernick has not only helped her students participate in Expressions, she has helped them excel in Expressions, challenging them to transform complex, real-world research projects into powerful, thought-provoking poems and stories, while in the process promoting measurable improvements in scientific literacy, collaboration, communication, and self-expression. So those results, those student learning outcomes are wonderful, but they don't just happen. They're not an automatic byproduct of the program. They are the result of the passion and the energy and the expertise that teachers like Maggie Chernick invest in the program to provide their students with yet another opportunity to shine. So on behalf of Cleveland Clinic, it is my honor to recognize Maggie with what we call the Expressions Teacher Celebration Award. And this recognizes her commitment to the program for the past 5 years. And there is a quote from Albert Einstein that says, "It is the supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge." And it has been our joy in the Cleveland Clinic's Civic Education Department to witness the incredible impact you have had on your students within and certainly beyond this program. So I am thankful for this opportunity. I want to thank Superintendent Powers, Dr. Hebert. I want to thank the members of the board, and I want to congratulate you and thank you for your tremendous work. Thank you.
We're so proud of our participation in the Cleveland Clinic's Expression Program, but it's because of outstanding educators like Mrs. Chernick that happens. And Mr. Flom, please on our behalf thank the Cleveland Clinic for their ongoing partnership with the Twinsburg City School District. We look forward to seeing this year's presentation later in the school year. I'm quite sure. Thank you very much. Board of Education, I do have a second presentation to make this evening, unbeknownst to you, but it's a little surprise. So we had the occasion, you know, to bring on the scoreboard. And we have students that have created videos and help to manage the scoreboard when our athletes are on the field. Well, we have a very talented young lady in the person of Olivia Sharp, and she's here this evening because I asked her to come and to share with you the pump-up video that she made to start the varsity football games. It's very exciting, and so come on up, Olivia. We want to talk to you, and Dr. Hebert, if you want to come up too. And before Mr. Gutowski shows it, do you want to just give the board a little bit of a preview of what they're going to see?
All right. So I'm a junior at Twinsburg High School, and it is my second year in the interactive media program. And what I created that you'll be seeing shortly is what I call a football pump-up video. It's played a few times before kickoff just to kind of get the atmosphere for the football game, and kind of it represents all the people who really make the football game special. So you'll see the paint crew, you'll of course see the players, you'll see the band, you'll see the cheerleaders, even our beloved mascot, and it's just a lovely way to kick off the game and get everyone excited. So yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Pump-up video for the report card, too. Give a score update.
While we're waiting, I'm going to plug the tailgate party across the, I see soccer fans here. They're giving away food, snacks, and drinks.
supposed to say something.
We're really proud of Liv and everything that she did here with the pop-up video, but we're just as proud as everything that she's shown. The football team on its way to another win this weekend, homecoming parade, Friday night, everybody's invited. We got all kinds of candy, that's all I'm saying. Right? Dance Saturday. I haven't been to a Twinsburg dance.
They're fun.
Getting ready to go over to soccer, so, and I think you probably might be thinking about that, so come on over after this is over. We have a lot going on at Twinsburg High School.
Good job.
Board of Education, I just want to thank you for your investment in our kids. You know, when we brought on board the scoreboard project, Mr. Welker was a huge advocate for making sure that that was a learning opportunity for students behind the scenes. But Olivia has taken it a step further, and I appreciate your skills. That belongs on television, it really does. And the caliber of your work is phenomenal, and it just makes me really proud that one of our high school students is able to produce something like that to pump up the crowd and just to add another level of excitement to what happens at Twinsburg Tiger Stadium. So Olivia, thank you. Mrs. Sharp, thanks for being here tonight. We're extremely Tiger proud of you, and thanks for sharing your talents with not only the Board of Education, but our whole community this evening. Thanks you so very much. Okay, so now I'd like to ask Mr. Winter, who's here tonight, to introduce some outstanding Bissell Tigers. I know that Mrs. Johnson wished she could be here tonight, but her son has a college night, and she just said to me, I can't believe he's almost ready for college. And I remember her son when he was like this big. So Bissell, you'll soon be getting ready for going on to college too, so you'll blink an eye, mom and dads, and there you'll be. So Mr. Winter is pinch hitting this evening for Mrs. Johnson, who's busy with her family, and I know we have a great number of Tigers to celebrate. Board of Education, Mrs. Davis is going to present the pins. So boys and girls, how this will work is Mr. Winter is going to be saying some very wonderful things about you as Tigers at Bissell. And when you come on up, you're going to come up and you're going to shake hands with Mrs. Davis, and she has a special pin to give you. Shake hands with me, Mr. Winter, and then we're going to ask you to stand up in front of the table and stay standing until all the boys and girls from Bissell have been recognized, okay? And parents, at the end, we'll have everybody stand up here so you'll have a nice photo opportunity before the boys and girls sit down. So thank you for being here, Mr. Winter. Glad that you are.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Nice to see everyone out here this evening. I think I'm now sufficiently pumped to announce these names. A lot of energy in the room tonight. So again, I'm just excited to be here. Excited to be representing Samuel Bissell Elementary School this evening and recognizing some fantastic students. The Students of the Month program at Samuel Bissell Elementary School recognizes outstanding student achievement in the 2nd and 3rd grade levels. The focus of this recognition program is on citizenship, academics, social, civic, volunteer, or other accomplishments that set this student apart from their peers. We would like to proudly acknowledge the positive accomplishments of the following students. Starting in 2nd grade, Noah Link from Mrs. Springer's class. And from Miss King's class, Amelia Treehouse. All right, everybody, these are our 2nd grade Students of the Month, boy and girl, I should say. Congratulations. Let's give him a big hand, shall we? And now for our third grade students of the month, starting with Olivia Basil from Miss Belinsky's class. From Mrs. Langhoff's class, Carolyn Bryant. From Mrs. Rowetter's class, Jeremiah Carvalho. From Miss Babcock's class, Cameron Nellamsbay. From Mrs. Angler's class, Man Patel. From Mrs. Watson's class, Corey Peck. From Miss Babcock's class, Ainsley Wills. And from Mrs. Podkolitsky's class, McKenna Zimmerman. All right, guys, smile big. Make sure your certificates are up. Mr. Solon, you have everyone in there? We have a couple more pictures, guys, so making memories here. All right. How about one more round of applause? So I'd just like to take this opportunity just to talk about how the start of the year has been going at Samuel Bissell. We're off to a great start. We've had a lot of great events already in such a short amount of time. Our big readathon fundraiser is wrapping up, and so far the early returns look fantastic. So I just wanted to thank all of our students and our families, and of course the PTA for their leadership. Each year we set two different goals for our readathon. One, if the students read 90,000 minutes as a school, and then two, if we raise $10,000. And if we reach both of those goals, Mrs. Johnson has agreed to once again dance on the roof at Samuel Bissell Elementary School. And last year she was joined by Twinny the Tiger, so he may be back again this school year as well. So that's one fantastic thing that's going on. Also, we just had our Father's Walk a couple of weeks ago, which once again was very well attended, so I wanted to thank all of you for your support on that. It's just a great morning for dads or uncles, grandfathers, just to be with our students. I know how busy the mornings can get. Everyone's running to different places, so to have the opportunity for everyone to kind of hang out for a little bit, I think was fantastic and truly a blessing. Once again, the weather cooperated, so we were very happy with that. Our Bissell Blood Drive is coming up October the 12th. That is NEOEA Day, so it's not a school day. We're looking for a lot of folks to come out and donate blood. And it is for community members as well. So if you go to redcross.org, and put in Bissell, you can go ahead and sign up for an appointment and donate. You know, I think we all know the need for blood in this area especially. So if you're able to donate, you know, I encourage you to do so. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Hoffman, our guidance counselor, in just a moment. He has brought some students with him because we just finished with Start with Hello Week last week. And I'm not going to steal Mr. Hoffman's thunder, but it's a program that we've been a part of for the last few years, and it really promotes inclusion in the school. So at this time, I'm going to have Mr. Hoffman come on up. He brought some friends with him tonight.
These guys were a little nervous until I told them that this was not only on the local channel, but HBO as well. So, very excited now. We, for the past few years, 1 week a year, have done something called Start with Hello Week. And it was started by an organization called the Sandy Hook Promise, which is brought to schools really to just tackle the ideal that too often there are students that come to school and they feel isolated. And when they come to school and they don't feel like they have friends, they don't feel like they have anyone to talk to, they don't feel like they're part of groups, it's a problem. And the week that we just spent was that it's all of our job to make sure that no one comes to school and feels that way. So we spent the week talking about how to look for signs of someone who might be feeling lonely at school, and then we talked about all the different strategies that we can do to prevent that from happening or to make them feel better. So we had a Wear Green Day, we had a day where everyone got to sit wherever they wanted at lunch and were encouraged to ask new friends to join them. We had these wonderful poster contests that we did throughout the school and hung all over the school. And then these guys all volunteered. They're third graders from Miss Belinsky's class. They volunteered to learn to say hello in a different language, and then they read them over the loudspeaker. So earlier this week I asked if they wanted to join us up here and share their word with everyone, and they agreed. They're very excited. So I will let them take the stage.
Hello, my name is Cole Krajewski, and this is how you say hello in Hindi, Namaste. And also this is how you say hello in Swahili, Jambo.
My name is Olivia Basil. This is how you say hello in German, Guten Tag, and how to say hello in Italian, ciao.
Hello, my name is Kishore Babu. This is how you say hello in Hebrew, Shalom. And this is also how you say hello in Spanish, Hola.
Hello, my name is Riley Lipson. This is how you say hello in Hawaiian, Aloha. This is how you say hello in Australian, good day.
Hello, my name is Navy. This is how you say hello in Mandarin, Ni hao.
Hello, my name is Oliver Eloy, and this is how you say hello in Japanese, Konnichiwa. And this is how you say hello in Turkish, Mahabara. Hello, my name is Gavin Payne, and this is how you say hello in Latin, salve.
Hello, my name is Ben Hoagland, and this is how you say hello in Swedish, Hala. This is also how you say hello in Farsi, Salam.
Hello, my name is Kelsey. Hello, my name is Kelsey Kloon. This is how you say hello in French, Bonjour.
Hello, my name is Brady Lyons, and this is how you say hello in Serbian, Zdravo.
Very good job, guys. So the theme for Start With Hello really is that it's all of our job in every school to look out for kids that might need a little help in any area, and it really does just start with hello. And that's where we came from, and we decided this year it was not only going to be a week, but it was going to be our theme for the year. So this is going to be Start With Hello year, and I was very proud of all of the students throughout the school that did all the great activities. So thank you.
Boys and girls, we're so proud of you. That was a lot to learn, and so many interesting things about saying hello, right? It's more than just saying hello. There are many different ways of saying hello, and your posters are just absolutely beautiful. I hope Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Winter displayed them at school for a very long time, and we appreciate you being great friends to one another, too. And thank you to Mr. Hoffman. He does a great job with our students in the counseling department over at Samuel Bissell Elementary School.
Thank you, and I just wanted to thank Mr. Hoffman as well. You know, when it comes to Start With Hello Week, he does a lot of behind-the-scenes work with planning of the activities and organizing of students. So I know he's out in the hallway there, but I hope he hears me. I just wanted to thank him so very much for his time. So as you can see, a lot of great things going on at Samuel Bissell Elementary School, and there's also a lot of great things going on at R.B. Chamberlain Middle School. And Lisa Moore is here, Assistant Principal Lisa Moore is here to share those with you.
Why, thank you. Hello, aloha, bonjour. I'll start with talking about what's going on at RBC. We're finishing up our fall sports, volleyball, football, cross country. We've had winning seasons for all of our sports, so we're very happy about that. Also, RBC is the recipient of the 2018 Ohio PBIS Silver Recognition Award. Now, what is that? Thank you, thank you. So, PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And that's our framework for creating a positive school culture and climate through the use of appropriate behaviors. So some of the positive interventions and incentives that we have going on is Tiger Days. Every week we have a different incentive for our students who are meeting our expectations. With Tiger Days, the students meet with their teachers at the end of the day for fun. We do karaoke, football, line dancing, all kinds of activities. Another week, we have something called the Team Challenge, and we find out who's the best team out of the 4 in RBC. And the winning team is treated in the lunchroom with a treat by the principals. And their team has the trophy for the next 3 weeks till the next Team Challenge week. And then we have something called pop-up days. And pop-up days are when a student may go into one of their subject area classes and the teacher says, today you get to all sit with your friends instead of sitting in your assigned seats. Something like that the kids enjoy because they never know what class they're going to have this pop-up surprise in. So those are some of the things that are going on at RBC. And we are looking forward to another year of meeting your students' needs academically as well as social and emotionally. Now we're going to talk about our Students of the Month. Okay, students receiving the honor of Student of the Month are recognized for meeting all 6 of the criteria. Each student has to meet all 6 in all of their classes as the grade level teams decide upon 2 boys and 2 girls to be selected each month from each grade. Okay, our criteria is that students show respect and consideration for others. They show enthusiasm for academic and extracurricular activities. They exert a positive influence on classmates. They exhibit leadership characteristics as well as patriotism and democratic principles, and they show responsibility. The following students, as we call your name, please come up. And stand in front when your name is called. Jessica Gay. Jessica here. Jessica is not here. Thomas Goetz. Thomas here. Thomas is not here. Julia Rodick, I know she's here. Okay. Robert Waltz. And these are our 7th grade students of the month. We can give them a round of applause. We're a little fancy. And you guys can remain up there. 8th graders, Cordelia Firearm. Maurice Johnson. Celeste Smith. And Matthew Kleppett. And these are our RBC Students of the Month. Okay, thank you.
Boys and girls, we're so very proud of you, and I always say it's so nice to see the students from the younger grades, and then you see the middle school students, how much they've grown since they've been at Bissell. So congratulations to both our Bissell Tigers and our RBC Tigers. We're really proud of all that you're doing, and we're watching you grow and become just wonderful, wonderful young people, and we so appreciate your parents and your grandparents for being here this evening as well. So don't forget, Dr. Hebert invited everybody across the street, so go on over if you can and cheer on our Tigers, our Lady Tigers, who are taking on Hudson this evening. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll be there at 5:30. They're probably looking for it.
It's like rush hour. Yeah.
I know.
Go straight out 82. Who is this?
All right. Moving forward to E3, committee reports. Any of my colleagues have any meetings they'd like to report out on?
No meetings, but I do have an update from CVCC. We held our board meeting last Thursday, and so just as we're going to be prepared to discuss our report card for Twinsburg City School District, the Cuyahoga Valley Career Center also has a report card that gets issued too. And so at our last board meeting, the results of that report card were revealed. And so I'll just read them because more than likely most of the public don't get this information, or I'm not sure if it's sent to the homes or not. It might be. But CVCC got a D in achievement, A in graduation rate, D in prepared for success, and an A component score for post-program outcomes. They also drilled down and talked a little bit about what each entails, but one of the takeaways with respect to a couple of items on the CVCC report card is that there are elements on our report card that we're rated on, but we don't have complete control over them, especially with respect to how kids fare in state tests here in the home district, but yet our state report card on the CVCC side is impacted. And so I'm told by Mr. Mangus, who's the superintendent over there, that there are things currently working in the legislature to rectify that problem so that we're rated on what happens at the center and things that are within our control as opposed to things that are outside of our control and where we're rated on that report card. So just wanted to give you an update on that. Any parent can look up our report card on the state website. All technical education centers are posted there for parents who want further information on it, but I wanted to make sure that the board was aware that an update for the CVCC report card was made available. at our last board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Any other reports? Moving on to agenda item F, Superintendent Powers, looks like we've got an administrative report this evening.
We do. Thank you, Mr. Solera. As Mr. Curtis just indicated, it was about 2 weeks ago that the Ohio Department of Education released the local report cards for all the public school districts and career tech centers in our state. And this evening, Mrs. Farthing is going to provide for the Board of Education a summary of the ratings that the Twinsburg City School District received. As you may have heard from what was released in the media, this is the first year that school districts are receiving an overall grade. And so Mrs. Farthing will speak a little bit about that, as well as the different areas. Board of Education, we think that this is a work in progress. I was at the BASA conference the last 2 days in Columbus, and there is a lot of conversation across the state of Ohio regarding the local report card and what it means, what does it mean, what value does the mom and dad at home place in the local report card, and what does it mean in the state of Ohio. And so the local report card continues to evolve over time. We use the report card as a data point. It's a day in the life of a student, basically, and we understand that we're accountable for the success of our students. At the same time, understanding that this is just one data point, and that we will use these data points to celebrate the things that we're doing really well, and to continue to accelerate learning in those areas, as well as taking a look at where our challenges are and putting into place programs that help us to address those challenges with our students and provide professional development that helps to provide our teachers with the tools that they need to encourage our students to make more growth in those areas. So this evening, Mrs. Farthing has a very nice presentation, so I will turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent Powers. Thank you. We have a lot of screenshots for you this evening, so we'll break down the report card into individual pieces. This is a screenshot of the overall report card. If you recall last year when we would try to get to the report card, it could sometimes spin and spin and spin and spin. And so the report card look has changed this year, and this is our overall report card. As I said, we'll go into each component individually. And as Mrs. Powers said, we have an overall grade this year. And just before we get into all the minutia, just to let you know, the achievement and the progress are worth 20% of the overall grade, and then the gap closing, prepared for success, K-3 literacy, and the graduation rate each equal 15%. So that's how that is combined into the overall grade. To start with, I'd like to talk about achievement. Achievement is made up of two pieces, and the two pieces that make up achievement are the performance index and the indicators met. This is a breakdown into achievement and the performance index. We've always had performance index, and what performance index is, it's a weighted average for how our students perform on the assessments. So you can see that if a student earns advanced, you get 1.2, proficient is 1, and then basic and limited are lower weights. So overall, our district had a 99.9, oh so close to that 100, that elusive 100, but we'll get there. But we're excited about 99.9. So this is our performance index, so it's a weighted average. And then with the weighted average, we have the indicators met. So of course, there are a few red X's that we know we need to work on, and we'll talk about that in a few moments, but these are our indicators met. And then what happens to earn the achievement is there is the performance index is worth 75%, and the indicators met is worth 25%. So those go together to give us the score of a B for the component grade. So I just wanted to explain how that happens. It's not just equal, it's 75 and 25%. So that's achievement, how we've done with performance index and indicators met. Next we have progress, which is also referred to as value added. I'm very excited about the green on the screen. Green is good. Green makes us very happy. So with value added, if you recall, there are 5 breakdowns with value added, and our students have to make, this is where we make 1 year's worth of growth. And as you recall, 1 year's worth of growth is a C. So to get higher than 1 year's worth of growth kind of would be a B, and then to get significant growth is considered an A. That means making more than 2 years worth of growth. So we know we have some areas of concern, but again, we're very excited about the green. Again, when you do the progress, there are components that are weighted more. So some of these are worth, I knew as soon as I said it, I wouldn't recall. I believe the overall is worth 55%, and then the gifted students in the lowest 20th percentile and the students with disabilities each make up 15. So those three go together to make 45%, and then the overall is worth 55%. The next component to discuss is gap closing. We received an A in gap closing, and it's just, we were really elated. Gap closing has changed. We have always had gap closing, but it changed. And this year, the gap closing measured by performance index, and gap closing was previously measured how our students did on the assessments, but now it is measured by their performance index. So if you look at that, this is just a picture of our English language arts, and again, this measure always talks about our growth of our subgroups, so there are different measures and indicators for each subgroup. So if you look at the red dot, that is where our goal area is. So the goal this year for all students was an 83.8, and then in the next years until 2025 and 2026, that school year, the goal for all students is to have a PI of 100. So that measure goes up incrementally, and that is the only measure that's goal is 100. Okay. So all of the other ones for African American and multiracial, economically disadvantaged, they go up a little bit each year, approximately 2% each year, but they never get to 100 by the year 2025. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the increase rate varies each year. So this was English language arts, and then our mathematics is here, and the goal for mathematics for all students was at an 84.2, and again, its goal goes to 100 in the year 2025-2026. When you go to the local report card on the ODE website, you can also do a chart like this for graduation rate and English language learners. English language learners related with ESSA, there's a much greater focus on English language learners now, and really measuring the growth of those students over time. So there is a whole chart related to English language learners. They're included in this gap closing as well, but the English language learners have their whole entire chart also. So that was gap closing. Graduation rate always makes us smile as well. This is the 4 and 5 year cohort, earning an A in both of those. Our K-3 literacy, improving the at-risk for K-3 literacy. The first year of this measure was in the 2013-2014 school year. Just as a reminder, 100% of our students were promoted to 4th grade. However, not 100% of our students made it with a 700 on the OST. We did receive a deduction for 8 of our students because 8 students were not on a RIMP, and they did not earn a 700. This is a conversation Mrs. Johnson and I have probably almost daily, but especially at this time of the year when our students are taking MAP and going through the RIMP process, but we talk about this measure all the time. And just to give you tell you one more time, these students that were not on a RIMP, they scored in MAP anywhere between a 50th and an 80th percentile. So they are students that obviously we're very concerned about, all students, but they're not students that would have been on our radar to place on a RIMP. So that's why we received that deduction. So Bissell earned a C, Wilcox earned a C, but then when you put those two together and took away the 8 students, that's how we earned a D. So when
didn't they lower the?
Yes, and the percentage changes each year, so we were very close to the percentage in 16-17 that would have been a C. But yes, each year they are changing that percentage based on the average of the state. We are hopeful. We want to thank you for your support of a reading intervention specialist, a reading specialist at Bissell. She started maybe Monday. We're excited about her. She's getting her room all set up and already started working with students yesterday. So we're hoping that she'll be able to help us narrow it down and really work with additional students. Prepared for Success is our measure for 2 years of graduates for the class of 2016 and 2017, earning a C in this. Gifted students, we did not meet this measure for gifted students. There are 3 components that go into the gifted indicator, and one of them is value added. For our gifted students, we did earn an A for value added and gifted, so very excited about that. Performance index for our gifted students have to earn a 117, and we earned a 117.879. The area that caused us to not meet the gifted indicator was the gifted inputs. The gifted inputs is a relatively complex criteria with inputs, and there are about 8 to 10 criteria that go into that, and we needed to earn 80 gifted indicator points, and we earned 57. So again, when we get to our action items, we will talk about that. This is a new component. Well, it might not be totally new, but it's user-friendly and very interactive. This is a new piece of the financial data. So this is where we are, Twinsburg, that is the red dot. So this shows how much we spend per student and in relation to our performance index score. So you can go into this on the local report card site, and you can click on, if you hover over any of those blue dots, it will tell you what district that is and how much their per pupil expenditure is. So we compare ourselves to our neighbors on a very regular basis. So, and this right here is the similar districts. So majority of those are our neighboring districts. We spend approximately $9,882 per student. Some of our neighbors who are on this chart spend $13,000 per student, and then some of them spend up to $11,000 more per student than we do that we are compared against up on that chart. So there's one blue dot that goes way far over, but you'll see that we have a good bang for our buck here. So our celebrations with our local report card is our continued success with our graduation rate. Our progress improvement went from a D to a C for our students with disabilities. Our gap closing improved from a B to an A. All of our schools had improvements with their gap closing. Our achievement component increased from a C to a B, and we were able to meet the new chronic absenteeism indicator in each of our schools. Just a few of our action items. We will continue to monitor K-3 literacy. Mrs. Johnson has some ideas in mind for things that we're going to do a little bit differently this year. We've talked with Ms. Villa about just what are we missing, what can we do differently for our students. We will be focusing on algebra and geometry at Twinsburg High School. We'll be having our district curriculum and technology meeting on Monday night. And most of these items in our action items are also going to be discussed at the curriculum and technology meeting. But our algebra and geometry are areas that we have need for improvement in. We also want to investigate additional opportunities for our high school students with the Prepared for Success measure. We need to monitor our gifted input points. And then also this year, Samuel Bissell is serving gifted students in grade 3. So that's going to add a new layer to our gifted indicator. And then with the way that the performance index is a part of the achievement measure and the performance index is a part of the gap closing measure, we have to do everything we can for our students, because just 1 or 2 questions, correct or incorrect, really makes a big difference in that performance index. As Mrs. Powers said, this is just a picture, a snapshot of the day in the life of our student, but the quality profile really highlights how our students do on a daily basis and all of the great things that we do in the Twinsburg City School District. So I just wanted to highlight the quality profile again. And thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mrs. Farthing?
Yeah. For one, I do agree that even with the district having an overall grade, I mean, it's a new thing, and I guess if you look at a grading scale from A to F, and we have a B, that's a good thing. I always want to kind of caution how much emphasis we place in letter grades, understanding, as Mrs. Farthing has explained, that there's a lot of complexity around how we arrive at those grades, and making mention of the profile. I think that it's really important for our residents to really look through the profile, the quality profile, because it does give a much more in-depth look in terms of what's going on day to day in our classrooms. And I also want to acknowledge that the achievement tests and all that goes into the report card is one snapshot in time. I mean, it's literally when a kid sits down and takes a test, there are a lot of things that could be going on, with that child, whether they're hungry or whether they're, not in a good mood, or, whether they're sick, or, a whole lot of different things that can affect the accuracy of the test, and it doesn't necessarily measure how much they know and what they can do. So I want to preface, my comments with respect to that. Now, I do want to talk a little bit more, or at least I have some more questions with respect to the progress component, the grade of the B. And more importantly, I want to focus on the students with disabilities. And I think that we all understand, and I heard very, very clearly that we need to continue our work in that area. I always have a particular concern with students with disabilities because I believe that they're the most vulnerable. I do believe that they require more resources than other students. But specifically, I want to focus on the rate of growth with respect to this population in comparison to other populations in the district, and that they have the slowest pace of growth, slowest rate of growth compared, and by a large margin. And that's really what I'm particularly concerned at. Not that they're growing, that they are growing.
They are growing.
But the rate in which they're growing compared to other students in the district it's a gulf. I mean, it's pretty wide. And so I know as a board, we've done a lot of things with respect to making sure that resources are adequate in addressing our most vulnerable students, whether that be staffing or whether that be curriculum, and whether that be other resources like Beach Brook and things to really address the non-academic barriers that our students face. And so I think as a board we're pretty committed to making sure that our administration and our teachers have everything that they possibly need to work with these students, because they are some of the most difficult students to educate and work with. That being said, from a strategic standpoint, and perhaps Denise can speak to this better than you can, I'm really interested to know what are we doing differently, or what will we do differently, because this particular measure, if we did better, I would venture to say that our grade and progress would probably be an A. This is the one that kind of weights it down, that doesn't allow us to achieve an A. And I don't like to make comparisons with our surrounding districts, because in a lot of cases it's apples to oranges and it's not a real comparison, so I'm not going down that road. I'm just strictly analyzing our own district data and really want to make sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can and responding to what we see in our practice, so that these students are achieving at the highest possible levels that they can, because I know that a lot of our other students are at a much greater rate. I'd just like to see the students with disabilities achieve at a greater rate than they currently are.
And you can jump in, Mrs. Trapphagen. But the things that I would say that we're working on right now are, when you see our CIPs, you will see that there is a focus on our students with disabilities. One of the things that one of our initiatives this year is co-teaching and making sure that our students are in the least restrictive environment. And some buildings and teachers are running full steam ahead, and some we're helping along the way. So that's one of our initiatives. And also, when we talked about the algebra and geometry, that is an issue for us, and that is something that Dr. Hebert is on, and we are very much focused on that. We spent time this summer with our math teachers, algebra and geometry specifically, working with them, the co-teachers, the classroom teachers, all the special education teachers that are involved. So I would say those are our big areas. Our students with disabilities, we made growth last year. I mean, and in comparison, we moved from a D to a C. Some of our buildings earned an A, like Mr. Reese turned it around, and his building went from an F to an A in students with disabilities. Yes? A B, okay. So that's a huge change. So we have a lot of things that we are monitoring and that are in place that we're trying to implement. But those are the, I would say, the co-teaching and the just making sure every teacher knows every student and really working with their students. And then also the algebra and geometry is something that is troublesome to me, just because I know our students can do better, and we can earn a better score in that.
Mrs. Farthing, can you explain to the board, when we have kids that are in the honors algebra and geometry at the middle school, how that impacts the high school scores?
Yes, so some of our students starting in 6th grade last year took the algebra test. So we lose a lot. We lose our students that are taking the honors algebra, and we don't have honors algebra, but algebra and geometry. And last year we had students taking Algebra 2 at RBC. So those students are not in this equation. So we have, depending on the year, we can have anywhere from 60 to 100 students in the honors classes that are not counted in these numbers. So our students at RBC for algebra and geometry have 100% passage. But it's our high school students, because they're not accelerated, and math is, I know it's a mindset, and we can't say that math is not their thing, but students, sometimes math, they aren't seeing the real world application, and that's what another is really working on. And if you notice, a lot more tweets coming out from the high school with a lot more hands-on engaging activities, because if the students are hands-on and doing things with the mathematics, it's a lot more meaningful, and they will remember it.
So are they getting high school credit at RBC?
Yes, they are.
So is it a legislative issue that those are not counted? Because it almost seems like we're penalized.
Because they're not part of the
Counted
school
for the middle
population.
school.
Counted
Hold
for the
on.
middle
I didn't
school.
hear.
It's counted as the middle school score, so those
Oh.
students who are accelerated in those areas, their scores don't count for the high school, they're
Okay.
counting at the middle school.
But yet they're getting high school credit.
Right.
Right.
So that's why the high school report card in those areas is seemingly
Seems like a
more
little bit of a
depressed,
loophole.
because the accelerated kids are giving the credit to the middle school because that's where they're testing.
Correct. And even last year, we had to have an Algebra 1 on their school
Wow.
card, because we had a student that went to RBC for Algebra 1 last year, so.
That makes sense.
I do want to say, and Mrs. Farthing mentioned it, this year when we met with all of the building administrators and their teams, when we meet before our CIP meetings, we have teachers that are with us with the building administrators, and we are really talking a great deal about the students with disabilities and what we need to do. We need to do an instructional audit. We need to find out what the teachers are teaching, how they're co-teaching with their partners, and whether or not they're teaching the right stuff. With regard to teachers that are intervention specialists, not only do they have the responsibility of working on the standards, they also have the responsibility of moving IEP goals. So it is a complicated thing, and we certainly understand that a student at the high school may be working at a couple levels lower than their peers. So it is a difficult task, and we continue to revisit this with the administrators, tweak the alignment. It seems to be an ongoing thing. And this co-teaching model, it will be helpful to some, not to all, but it is another thing that we're bringing on board. The LLI program, the Reading Plus program, lots of things that the board has invested in they're making gains, but not for all kids, because it can't be one size fits all. And so Mrs. Trapagan and Mrs. Farthing are great partners with the building administrators in trying to figure out this puzzle. And they are making progress. We're proud of it. We wish it would be quicker and faster, but we are making progress, and that is something that we'll take to the bank.
I think what Mrs. Powers and Mrs. Farthing said, first of all, we've got to celebrate that, you know, we did make progress with students with disabilities this year, and especially in 2 of our buildings. And we are working very hard with our teachers and our building administrators. And one of the things, not only what Mrs. Powers and Mrs. Farthing has talked about, is our CCIP. We are, I'm talking about our Office of Pupil Services, the building administrators, we are meeting with every intervention specialist in this district and looking at their scores of the kids from last year and who they have this year, and what kind of programs and services can we wrap around these students to help them move. And so we're in the process right now with meeting with each building administrator and each intervention specialist, and taking and looking at that data and drilling down to say, okay, this child did this last year, what can we do this year, and what as far as supports to help this child grow. So we do have things in place to help these students. And again, we need to celebrate our successes, and we've made a lot of gains as far, and thanks to the board for some of the programming that you've given us, because without that, we wouldn't have moved from where we were last year to where we are this year. And again, some of those buildings, I mean, we know we got some concerns at the high school, and like Mrs. Farthing said, we are addressing those concerns, and so hopefully next year we'll have better results. Thank you.
And then just to comment maybe a little bit about the math, I know some of the teachers are kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place, because on the state test, there's so much material that needs to be covered throughout the year. And I think some teachers maybe are teaching the material and teaching it thoroughly so the kids get a good grasp on it, but it's hard to cover it all. So, and other teachers are teaching to try to get through all the material so that the kids have had exposure to pretty much all the material that's going to be on the test. So they're, like I said, they're kind of between a rock and a hard place, because they're trying to teach it well and thoroughly, but that yet they have so much to cover before they even, you know, come to the state test.
And that's a good point too. I mean, with this year, with some of the students having their Chromebooks and being able to use the Chromebooks and be able to take the test on their Chromebooks, they're used to that. And that's one of the things that we noticed at RBC last year, is that the way we were administrating the test and having the students be exposed to how they're going to actually take the test in their actual instruction, that is one of the reasons we feel we made that big growth at RBC. So good point that you know, we are looking at, you know, technology and, you know, having our students prepared for taking that test with using the different tools that are out there for us.
Because we assume our students are digital natives, because they are, but taking a test online is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And the exposure, and one of the things that the Algebra and Geometry PLC is doing, they are administering all their exams on Edulastic this year, and they're doing common assessments, so we can really get in there and look at the data and see what is happening. You know, ooh, everyone missed problem 5 on chapter 2 test. What was, you know, was there something wrong with the way we taught that? Is there a better way we can do it? Was there something wrong with the question? So we feel that the exposure to the students with the Chromebooks and being able to test online will be very helpful this year.
And they also need to learn that, I forget what it's called, but the online calculator, they need to learn how to,
yes,
how to use that.
Correct.
As opposed to just a handheld calculator.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty, any blue cards?
None tonight.
All right. Moving on to agenda item H, without objection from my colleagues, I'll read items H1 through 3. Resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the certificated licensed personnel and/or contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibit as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified, pending satisfactory ORC background checks. H2, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the classified personnel and/or contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibit as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified, pending satisfactory ORC background checks. Agenda item H3, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the supplemental contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibit as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified, pending satisfactory ORC background checks. Do I have a motion to accept items H1 through 3?
So moved.
Mr. Felber, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Curtis, discussion? Mr. Aho, please call the roll.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mr. Solera?
Yes. Items H1 through 3 passes 5-0. Without objection from my colleagues, I'll read items I1, 2. I1, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves the agreement with Solutions Behavioral Consulting to provide summer consultation and tutoring services for one student at a total cost of $1,668.75 as sent to the board under separate covenant. This is a Title 6B fund expense. I2, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves and authorizes the permanent improvements planning contract with Lesko Associates Incorporated as sent to the board under separate cover at a cost not to exceed $8,000. This contract will review and update the 2015-2016 facilities assessment to further identify and prioritize permanent improvement needs and potential projects for the next 3 to 5 years while further developing strategies for the district's permanent improvement budget. This is a general fund expense. I have a motion to accept items I1 and 2.
So moved.
Mrs. Davis, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Felber, second. Discussion?
I just wanted to point out there's quite a bit of work that went into the initial facilities assessment, and if Mr. Walker could give us a rundown of the last 2-3 years of projects now. All kidding aside, that plan and a lot of what was indicated has already been, in process in the permanent improvement budget, seen in finance, seen in buildings and grounds. So it's an ongoing living. It hasn't been sitting on a shelf, for 2 years. And that's, I think one of the primary reasons, if I'm not mistaken, for updating this is, hey, what can we take off the list? What is being assessed moving forward? Because, they're getting older every day. So, is that a good, accurate?
It's a good, accurate statement. We're also, our buildings age over time, and so we want to make sure we're looking at the prioritization that was set forth a couple of years ago and making sure that that prioritization still applies. So maybe looking at some reprioritizations of different projects.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Aho, please call the roll.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mr. Solera?
Yes. Items I1 and 2 pass 5-0. I3, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves Belinda McKinney to serve as an interim anti-harassment grievance officer for the 2018-2019 school year for the terms of the consultant contract previously approved by the Board of Education on September 5th, 2018. I have a motion to accept item I3.
So moved.
Mr. Curtis, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Feldman? Discussion? Mr. Aho, please call the roll.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mr. Solera?
Yes. I4, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves an agreement with Compass Installation and Specialty Coatings Incorporated, 4832 Payne Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44103, for the Garland DBS Incorporated, 3800 East 91st Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44105, for the roof and insulation replacement repair project at the Twinsburg City School District Bus Maintenance Garage for the terms and conditions set forth in the agreement and at a cost not to exceed $23,349. This is a permanent improvement expense that's sent to the board under separate cover. I have a motion to accept item I4.
So moved.
Mr. Felber, do I have a second?
Mr. Solera? Can we make an adjustment on this just so that there is the correct language in the resolution?
Yes.
It appears that there's a typo in here, so if we can amend the resolution and cross out for the Garland DBS, Inc., 3800 East 91st, because it's just related to compass installation.
All right, so we will motion to amend item I-4, removing for the Garland DBS Incorporated 3800 East 91st Street. I will make that motion.
I will second.
And Mr. Curtis will second. Discussion about that? Mr. Aho, can you please call the roll on the motion to amend I-4?
Mr. Solera?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Now I read item I-4 again, in the amended version. Resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves an agreement with Compass Insulation and Specialty Coatings Incorporated, 4832 Payne Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44103 for the roof and insulation replacement repair project at the Twinsburg City School District Bus Maintenance Garage for the terms and conditions set forth in the agreement and at a cost not to exceed $23,349. This is a permanent improvement expense as sent to the board under separate cover. I have a motion to accept item I-4.
So moved.
Mr. Felber, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Davis, discussion.
Just as a reminder, this was discussed at the last meeting. It was covered with Mr. Curtis and myself at the Buildings and Grounds. The money was already allocated. It's ongoing maintenance, and I believe there's going to be another component down the road. This is the first part of the project, but it's, we referenced that plan that we just talked about a little bit ago. This was in the plan, as a budget item on permanent improvement.
All right, so this is a series of two. There's the roofing and insulation, which is this part, and then there's a siding that we're still gathering quotes and bids for.
Mrs. Powers, you want to expand on the building envelope, or just leave that with inside
I
joke?
will leave that
Look, we were educated and re-educated about what the building envelope is. No, that's on tape.
Any more discussion? Mr. Aho, please call the roll.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mr. Solera?
Yes. I-4 passes 5-0. Agenda item I-5. Whereas Laura Busey is currently employed by the Board of Education of the Twinsburg City School District as a teacher under a limited contract issued pursuant to Ohio Revised Code sections 3319.08 and 3319.11. And whereas Ms. Busey, as a teacher, has the responsibility to abide by applicable state and federal laws and the reasonable and lawful directives of her supervisors. And whereas in the execution of her professional duties, Ms. Busey is expected to establish and maintain effective communication with both students and staff, and to develop and maintain a relationship of mutual respect and dignity between staff and students, which is critical to the proper functioning of the school community. And whereas Ms. Busey has the responsibility to be familiar with and abide by the board's policies, including the requirement to follow the board's educational philosophy, educational goals and objectives, staff conduct, use of school district property, and student supervision and welfare policies, and corresponding administrative regulations. And whereas the superintendent was notified by the Twinsburg Police Department on September 12, 2018 that Ms. Busey was going to be charged with sexual battery in violation of the Ohio Revised Code section 2907.03 in connection with an inappropriate sexual relationship she engaged in with a minor student enrolled in a school district and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles in violation of Revised Code 2907.31. And whereas the school district initiated its own investigation and it was alleged that Ms. Busey engaged in inappropriate conduct, including the following unprofessional behavior and misconduct in the educational environment. 1, engaging in inappropriate relations on school grounds and during or immediately preceding or immediately following school hours with a minor student enrolled in the district. 2, engaging in inappropriate behavior, including physical contact, with a minor student enrolled in a district. And 3, providing student with tobacco and tobacco-related products and paraphernalia. And whereas said concerns with respect to Ms. Busey's conduct and performance have been investigated by administrators and agents of the board. And whereas Ms. Busey was assigned a home with pay effective immediately on September 12, 2018 while the investigation was occurring. And whereas Ms. Busey's conduct has impaired her relationship with the district, as well as the trust and respect of her supervisors, and demonstrates that she does not possess the character, morals, or integrity required of a person employed to teach children. And whereas, as a result of the above, the superintendent has recommended that the board initiate proceedings to consider whether Ms. Busey's employment contract should be terminated. And the superintendent has further determined the character of the charges warrants that Ms. Busey be suspended without pay pending the outcome of the termination proceedings. And whereas, given the pending criminal proceedings against Ms. Busey, the superintendent provided Ms. Busey's representatives with a draft copy of this resolution and the full specifications of the grounds for consideration of terminating the contract of Laura Busey attached hereto on October 1st, 2018. And whereas Ms. Busey, with the assistance of labor representation, has been given a full opportunity to respond to the grounds here specified by rebutting some or otherwise explaining her actions on that same date. And whereas, based upon the internal investigation of the totality of the alleged misconduct at issue, the board finds that Ms. Busey engaged in the conduct identified within Attachment 1, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. And whereas the board has considered the recommendation of the superintendent, submitted after the superintendent had a full opportunity to consider all of the facts and circumstances of this matter. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Twinsburg City School District as follows. The board hereby determines to immediately initiate proceedings for the termination of the employment contract of Laura Busey based on the grounds specified in this resolution and the full specifications of the grounds for consideration of terminating the contract of Laura Busey attached hereto and incorporated fully herein, which constitute separate, distinct, and independently sufficient grounds for termination of employment. Each act is in contravention of the Ohio Revised Code 3319.16 and standing alone and or together constitutes good and just cause for contract termination. The character of the conduct described above is such that it warrants the immediate suspension of Ms. Busey's employment contract, and therefore Ms. Busey, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 3319.16, is suspended without pay effective 12:01 a.m. on October 4th, 2018, pending final action by the board to consider termination of her employment contract. The board authorizes and directs the treasurer to provide Ms. Busey with written notice, signed by the treasurer, of the board's intention to consider the termination of her limited contract for good and just cause pursuant to Section 3319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Said written notice shall include this resolution and the attached full specification of grounds for terminating the employment contract of Laura Busey, detailing the grounds upon which consideration of her contract termination shall be based. The board shall proceed with such termination at a meeting on October 17, 2018, unless Ms. Busey files a written demand with the treasurer for a hearing within 10 days after receipt of the treasurer's notice, in which case a hearing shall be held pursuant to the provisions of the Ohio Revised Code, Section 3319.16 and 3319.161. Be it further resolved that it is hereby found and determined that all formal action of this board concerning and or relating to the adoption of this resolution was taken in an open meeting of this board, and that all deliberations of this board and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public and in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. I will make a motion to accept item I-5. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Felber, second. Discussion. On September 12th, our superintendent was notified by the Twinsburg Police Department of an investigation regarding Ms. Busey and the allegations regarding a sexual relationship with one of our students. Superintendent Powers immediately contacted the board and placed Ms. Busey on administrative leave for our contract while the district began its own investigation into these serious and disturbing allegations. There is no place in society where the actions committed by Ms. Busey are acceptable, let alone in a school with one of our students. Her misuse of her position of authority to engage in these acts is upsetting and disgusting, and in no way tolerable in the Twinsburg City School District. Her gross negligence of the Ohio Revised Code, board policy, and the licensure code of professional conduct for educators leaves this board with no other choice but to move forward with this resolution, placing her on immediate unpaid suspension and initiating the termination process. It is evident to this board that Ms. Busey lacks the ethical and moral characteristics which is required of any person employed here to work with and teach our children. I would like to thank the Twinsburg Police Department, Chief Noga, and the detectives involved in this case for their professionalism and efforts during this investigation. I also want to thank Superintendent Powers and her team for their response and subsequent internal investigation as well. This has been a trying few weeks as both of these organizations sought to find the truth, uncover the facts, wade through the rumors and conjecture, and ultimately get us to this resolution tonight. Tonight, this board takes a stand for our students' safety and moves toward repairing the damage done by Ms. Busey and her actions. Ms. Reho, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Solera?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Item I-5 passes 5-0. Moving on to agenda item J, miscellaneous. Any of my colleagues have anything to share?
Score update. Got a score update?
I have it right here. I'm supposed to be looking at our phone, right? Couldn't help myself. So Dr. Hebert sent me a text that said, still 0-0 with 16 minutes left. We have narrowly missed on shots.
Still time.
Still time.
Still time, right?
Only other comments, we've already talked big across the street about soccer. I was able to attend briefly the academic awards ceremony at the high school, at least for the 10th grade anyways, and some of the kids were presented with awards for achieving a 3.5 or better for the 2017-18 school year. And I know we have such high-performing kids, but I was really just kind of astounded by how many kids were up on that stage when they received that award. And then we've had students who have received award for perfect attendance, and I actually know a few that have had perfect attendance since kindergarten on, which is pretty amazing. And then there were special awards given that teachers had given to individual students for just various reasons, and it was actually it was very kind of touching to see how excited these kids were for each other and for each other's achievements and how supportive they were for each other. And I just wanted to mention that before leaving the meeting, that it was just, I mean, we hear things about student report cards and things about some negative things that are going on, but we have so many positive things going on too. And I mean, that was just, like I said, the kids had to back up to the back of the stage so they can fit everybody on who with all their achievements, and I was just happy to be able to attend that.
Yeah, I also had an opportunity to be present for that as well. And again, I was blown away by how many kids. There were like, I think the number of kids, it was like maybe 5 rows deep, something like that, on stage. It's a lot of kids, and it just speaks to, you know, really the success of what's going on in the district. And then also wanted to also just speak to the award that the teacher got earlier this evening. That's just yet another award. That's something I will never get tired of, our acknowledgments and awards of either being received by our teachers or by our buildings. I think every building in the district has received some type of achievement and acknowledgement, which is great. And so, you know, let's just keep the thing, you know, keep things rolling, because again, it speaks to a lot of the great things that are happening in the district.
Anything else? I do want to speak to the strategic action plan meeting that occurred the other day, earlier this week. Want to thank all the parents, staff, administrators for all the time that was put in prior to this, as well as taking the time out to attend the initial meeting. A lot of good discussions in the breakout groups that I kind of jumped in between. A lot of good discussion after the meeting let out. You know, I don't know how late you had to stay there, but I'm sure you might have had to kick a few parents out to kind of push them out because there was still discussion going on afterwards. So I think this plan, this focus of the district this year is very well received, and I'm looking forward to working with the different community members, staff, parents, you know, on these different action teams to you know, come to some good ideas, some good plans, and ultimately putting everything together, you know, for an implementation next year. So I appreciate the efforts of, you know, Superintendent Powers, you and your team. I know it's been a lot. Appreciate all the parents and staff that took the time out and that will take the time out of their busy lives to help move us into the future. So with that, the board does have a need for an executive session tonight, so I'll make a motion that the board enters into an executive session at 8:31 to discuss employment, discipline, and compensation of public employees as per Board of Education Policy 0166A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Curtis? Any discussion? Mr. Aho, please call a roll.
Mr. Solera?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
The board is now in executive session.